welcome back to another episode of Marketing Girly by Sky Society. Today I am chatting with Jasmine Torres. She is the Senior Manager of Community Growth and Partnerships at Milk Makeup. Welcome, Jasmine.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm very excited to talk about your career journey, about breaking into beauty marketing, everything you're doing at Milk Makeup, and everything you've done before. Before we jump into all of that good stuff, can you tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so my name is Jasmine, but most people call me Jazzy. So that's been my nickname, honestly, in the industry since the start. I don't even know. I think when I was an intern, a lot of people just started calling me Jazzy, and I was like, we're gonna ride with that. I like how Jazzy
I love
sounds.
it.
Yeah,
Jazzy.
yeah,
Gorgeous.
It's fun. So my name's Jazzy, a born and raised Southern California girl. I went to FIDM for college, which was an amazing experience for me. I'm someone who has been a beauty enthusiast since I could reach my mom's vanity. That's what I would always say, is that I would like see my mom's MAC on her vanity, her MAC cosmetics. And I was like, that is mine. I'm taking it. And then I would take it to school with me without her knowing.
Breaking the rules.
Yeah, breaking the rules. I just thought it was iconic. My mom was a MAC girl. So I'm like, that's amazing. I would definitely apply as much product on as possible and then wipe it all off right before she picked me up, because I could not have her knowing I was taking her makeup. But I've been obsessed with the beauty industry forever, but I didn't know that the beauty industry was necessarily a career path for me until one of my best friends to this day introduced me to FIDM. I actually wanted to be a physician's assistant, specializing in athletes, which is very different from where I'm at now, but I'm grateful for finding the beauty industry and for my best friend showing me FIDM.
Amazing. Okay, We're going to get into your career journey and how you broke into beauty and how you ended up here at Milk Makeup. But I am a bit curious. Can you tell me a bit about what your role entails? You were talking about how you got a long title. So if you could give us, I know every day is different, but just a quick overview of what you do at Milk Makeup.
Yeah, so I've been at Milk Makeup for 3 years now, starting in August.
Congratulations.
3 years of Milk. It's been great. I've loved my experience so much and have learned a lot throughout my whole career, really starting at FIDM is what I always say. But at Milk in particular, I oversee our partnerships and growth strategy. So with that, we're a New York-based brand. So we're kind of split 50-50, but there's some of us based out of here in LA. So I'm responsible for overseeing all of our partnerships, from influencers to celebrity to makeup artists to whomever in our community. And then with that, I also oversee our growth strategy alongside the team. We're all responsible for how we scale and grow our community to where we're at today, but really understanding the holistic approach to growing a community and having that be sustainable and impactful and disruptive.
Incredible. Mm-hmm. Okay, like I said, we're gonna go more into it. I do want to know though, what is your go-to Milk Makeup product?
Ooh, my favorite question. I will stand on this hill that our Hydro Grip Set and Refresh Spray is the absolute best product, best spray on the market. I could literally, don't do this, but I could literally drink that. It's so good. I go through maybe 2 or 3, I feel like, a month, because I do the sandwich method with it, where I layer it in between every step of my routine. Literally from before primer, I'll spray. Next step, spray. Every step, and it just melts everything together beautifully, leaves me with a hydrated, dewy glow. Last 12 hours. Pick it up now. Ulta, Sephora, milkmakeup.com. Have to do the plug, but it is my favorite product by far.
Well, your skin is glowing.
Thanks.
It looks amazing.
Appreciate it.
And then how about your favorite makeup trend right now?
My favorite makeup trend. Actually, I feel like since we're back in the conversation of 2016 makeup, what is the OG techniques, and what made me fall in love with makeup was full beat and highlighter, and I mean champagne pop from Becca Cosmetics. I feel like everyone, if you know, that was the product. So highlighter for me has been just my favorite thing to do. I fell off of it a little bit, and then recently with trends and leaning back into circa 2016 and the trends that we did there, I was I'm gonna pull out my highlighter and just put it on all the high points, even on my lid. I'm obsessed with highlighter, and I feel like I need to keep that in my routine forever now, because I don't know why I stopped doing that.
Yeah, I do love a good highlighter.
Yeah.
And then also just personal question, since you mentioned that you love beauty, how do you balance trends, like beauty trends or makeup trends with your own, like what you own, what you personally love about makeup and beauty, like versus what's trending. Because like right now, for example, it's like blush is really big and like no mascara is really big and it's all about the lips and glowy. But there was a time when we were trying to have matte skin and things are changing all the time. So for you personally, like your own beauty and makeup, how do you kind of balance the two?
Yeah, I think it's so easy to get lost in the trends of things and following, especially in such a digitally savvy world, like what is like the hot new top or trend or the hot new way to apply your makeup. And for me, I think it's so fun to be able to explore, and I've always been very curious on different type of aesthetics and looks, but I've always made sure to go back to my core of what feels good on me and how do I want to basically express myself. I think that's the beauty of makeup is there's no one language to how you put on a blush or to how you put on a mascara, brows, whatever it may be, matte, dewy. So I really just kind of always go back to my tried and true while allowing myself to dabble in the fun and try new things. But there's no one right way to do something with makeup, and I think that's super exciting.
That. And I also feel like for me too, when sometimes I'll try a trend or something that I'm like, everyone's doing and it looks so good. And then I do it, I'm like, I don't feel like myself. Or I look in the mirror and I'm like, this doesn't feel comfortable to me. So I kind of love that advice of like, yeah, try new things, but it has to feel right to you, regardless if it's a trend right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go back to how you got this role at Milk, but I want to go back because you mentioned that you started at FIDM, and while you're at FIDM, we kind of chatted about that you were a Sephora seasonal employee in retail. So take me back to the start when you were kind of just getting your feet wet with beauty.
Yeah. Wow. I love going down memory lane. This is my favorite thing to do. So FIDM for me, which if you don't know, it's the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising. I was a product development major there in beauty particularly. So beauty marketing and product development was the whole title of it all. And it was such an amazing experience. FIDM is actually, they no longer have the major, which is really hard for me or sad for me to say on here because it taught me so much. I know so many people loved that major so much, but FIDM was just bought by ASU, which is really,
I had no idea.
Yeah, they were bought by ASU, and they, I think, are leaning more into the merchandising and fashion side of it all. And with that, they took out the beauty major, which sucks. But nonetheless, there's FIT and other places. And a lot of colleges are leaning into it too now, into the beauty industry and careers you can have that way. So I think it's important if you aren't going to like an FIT or a FIDM, you kind of see what your college has to offer for you or start the program yourself. That's been really popular. But at FIDM, I was just someone who wanted to dive right into it. Like I said, well, I thought I was going to be a doctor, right? So there was that whole thing. And then I knew that wasn't for me and that I had this calling consistently for makeup in the beauty industry. I just didn't know that there was an actual career behind it at the time. But then I also remember thinking, well, how do these products get on the gondola at Sephora? In my head, I'm like, it's not just like a makeup fairy that just sprinkles their pixie dust, as much as I would love that. Who is doing that? I want to be a part of that. So when my friend introduced me to FIDM in the major, I knew that I was going to dive right in and put myself in as many places as possible. And FIDM did a great job at giving you networking and career opportunities. I got very close with the career center, with our directors, all of them, just so I can see what is out there. And with that, I did something called a study tour at FIDM that they did. And it was basically taking you on a tour throughout a bunch of different brands based out in LA, and meeting the people in real time, in real life, at the brands that we hope to secure a job at one day. And one of those places for me was ColourPop Cosmetics. So that was a dream brand for me at the time. I knew that I wanted to make my mark at a brand like ColourPop. So when I did the study tour, I instantly made sure to introduce myself to the right people, had my resume on hand. I was very eager, still am a very eager person. And I'm grateful that it ended up leading me to an internship on the product development team. So FIDM definitely gave me a lot of groundwork to teach me how to be the best asset as possible. But with my hard work at the same time and networking is everything nowadays, I was able to thankfully land that, which then turned into a full-time role at ColourPop. And I was there for 3 years. So I was an intern for a year, a little less maybe, and then was on PD And then later we can get into it, went into influencer marketing. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, so, okay. One is you were able to get an internship at ColourPop, which
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone wanted to be an intern at ColourPop, or a lot of people did. So, advice for girls that are applying to these internships in beauty that are highly sought after, any advice for standing out in the process?
Yeah, I think as an intern, it obviously can feel really scary and daunting, and you want to put your best foot forward, and it's a very saturated and competitive industry now. And I think for myself, even putting in my shoes now, interviewing people who want to be interns on my team, the first thing that I always notice is their passion and their excitement to learn. And I made sure to really lead with that sort of mindset when I first started out. I always and will always consider myself a sponge. There is so much to learn, and the industry is changing. It seems like every second there's something new out there. So being able to lean into that, be passionate about it, and feel excited, I think. Be kind of like a yes man. Throw yourself in there. Say, yeah, I'm willing to label however many foundations it takes for me to like learn that next thing, or I want to just sit in that meeting and learn. So when you're in the interview process, I think at an internship level, leading with passion, curiosity, and just a love for the industry goes such a long way.
That is such great advice because I think especially so many of us, especially when you're young, you feel like you need to have all this experience and you're like, I can't get this internship because I don't have this experience. And experience is great and really valuable. But when you're young, we know that you're young, right? We know it's an internship. We know that you're young. We don't expect you to have everything. But yeah, we do want you to really want to work here, to have passion and drive, because that passion is going to turn into a work ethic and excitement at the role. And while there's a lot of skills I'm sure they're looking for in the hiring process, I really do think when you're young in your career, your greatest asset is your passion and your excitement and your curiosity, just like you said.
There you go. There you have it. Yeah. And I also think too, if let's say you're not landing that internship, like you're like, I'm trying and nothing seems to be working for me, or I'm not even getting the opportunity to interview for the internship, how else can you build your resume? So that's also where Sephora comes into place, right? So while I was at FIDM, I knew that I wanted to build my resume in a way where I could speak to the world of beauty. Wherever I may get that opportunity, I want to set myself up for success. And I think working in retail in the very beginning is such a great way to go, because you're actually on the ground listening to the consumers who are shopping the brands that you want to work for. So that was my mentality when I decided to go work at Sephora for a seasonal position. It was just a cashier position, but it was during holiday, which is like the busiest time of the year for all of these brands. And I got really curious. And yeah, maybe sometimes I snuck away from the cashier and started walking through the aisles and talking to some people about product, because I just wanted to hear what they thought about it. And so I think it is so important to consider retail experience too. And there are people who are working what we call field. Like at Milk, we have the field team, and those are people who work for the Milk makeup team at your local Sephoras and talking to consumers. So if you're someone working at an Ulta or a Sephora or some other retailer, find those field members and let them know, like, hey, is there anyone on your team that I can connect with? And I'm so passionate about this brand and would love to learn more. So never knock retail. It is such valuable experience.
That is really great to hear, because I think a lot of people in marketing, especially the young women that I talk to, it's like, well, should I even remove stuff that's retail or not marketing experience from my resume because that's not relevant? But that is so not the case. And I love that you share this Sephora retail experience of being a really great way to help you get into the beauty industry. Because at the end of the, like you said, you're talking to the customer, you're talking to consumer, like you're getting to experience beauty, and it may not be directly in marketing, but it is absolutely still transferable.
Agreed. Yes.
Okay, so Sephora's seasonal employee, you end up going over to ColourPop as a product development intern, and then that kind of transitions you into switching from product into an influencer relations specialist. So can you talk about this transition into influencer marketing?
Yeah, so one of the things that I was so grateful about working at ColourPop Cosmetics is that they let me be a part of multiple aspects of the business. Although I was on product development, which was such a thrill at the time, I was kind of like the trend mood girly I would build all of the vision boards of like potential products and launches that we can do. But with that, we got a lot of insight from our community too. So I was able to connect with the influencer team, or I would do things called swatch parties for ColourPop, where I would sit down as the product developer next to someone who is a part of our community and talk about the new launch that's about to drop, which was so much fun for me to be able to see the full circle of an eyeshadow that I developed and put that into a palette, but then bringing that to market through storytelling with someone who also has such a big voice and impact with their audience. So the whole 360 of it all really excited me. So at ColourPop, I decided, okay, if I'm going to make a change or explore somewhere else, because I was someone who tended to have tunnel vision. I thought product development was the end all be all for me. I went into FIDM thinking that was what I was going to do, but that's why I always tell people, don't have so much tunnel vision. Allow yourself to try different internships, meet with different people, even if it's one internship and you talk to other people within the team from different departments. Let them know that you're curious about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was able to make the switch. They let me go over to the influencer side, and I was able to be a part of a boom at ColourPop where it was 2018, 2019, and it was so much fun. I had a lot of experience. A lot of my experience now is built off of what I learned from ColourPop.
That's incredible. And I think also just great advice, especially switching. I know there's a lot of people too, you might not be in marketing, but you're at the company or in the industry and you want to make the switch. And I think your advice there is so great. And again, I feel like I said this a million times, but share your goals with people because you have no idea who's going to be able to help you. And I think also being curious, kind of like how you mentioned even at the start, is just such a great way to learn a lot and to grow in your career, is just approach things with curiosity, passion, and it'll take you a lot farther than you think.
Yep, I totally agree.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so this kind of launches, which is what is now your career with an influencer and partnerships, and it kind of started here. And you mentioned that this was definitely a boom at ColourPop, so just like a really fun time to work there. What is the biggest thing or something within influencer marketing that you feel like, I know you said you learned a lot, but is there one lesson that really stuck with you?
One lesson that probably really stuck with me is the importance of building an authentic community. And I think ColourPop does do that. They do a great job of having a very large community and people love the products. Me still to this day, I love ColourPop products. And so being able to understand from the first onboard and outreach with someone in influencer marketing or someone who is a creator to how that relationship can grow and that those relationships can go with you. I have influencers that literally have been with me since day one at ColourPop. So the biggest lesson that I've learned is more of the positive of how to build an authentic and true community.
I love that. And how about how that translates to the audience side? Because I know something that you are also passionate about is being driven by the challenge of turning audiences into communities and creators into brand storytellers. So how does that, I know you kind of touch on this creator aspect, but how do you feel like that translates to the customer?
Yeah, so I think everyone has a bit of influence in them, even our audiences. Everyone can persuade someone to, grab that product. I have friends of friends who recommend products to me and they aren't someone who's on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. Everyone has a voice and everyone has a purpose, I think, too. I mean, that sounds pretty deep, but it's true. I'm so passionate about the full 360, and that also starts with the consumer. So making sure that they know on my side, on the brand side, that I see them, I hear them, and that I'm always going to do my best to connect with anybody and everyone at multiple touch points, regardless of you being a celebrity, an influencer, or just a consumer.
I love that. Okay, so it started here at ColourPop. This is kind of where you got your love and that taste for influencer marketing. How did that kind of carry with you into the next stage of your career?
Yeah, so with that, at ColourPop, when it was towards the end for me and I wanted to explore something new, I came across Peach and Lily, which Peach and Lily is a Korean skincare brand based out of New York. And that's where I landed my first manager role. And it was super exciting for me because this was an opportunity to diversify my portfolio. I love color and makeup, but I also knew, because I'm someone who's always loved trend, has always kept a close eye on innovation and product and what's to come next. At that time, skincare makeup hybrids was existing, but not to the volume of what we see now. And although I knew that color is where my heart is, I want to dabble into a different world of beauty. So Korean skincare is so innovative and disruptive and way ahead of our time, even I think to this day. So when I saw that opportunity, I knew that I wanted to take a stab at it. I felt like I could really learn something there, and I did. So that's a big thing that I tell people too, is always make sure to diversify your resume and the brands that you work for, because it all ladders up to the same thing. They each teach you how to tell a different story. That's what I'm doing at the end of the day. I'm a marketer. I want you to feel like you see yourself in the product or in the story or in the mission or in just the brand. That was great experience to be able to dabble into Korean skincare.
Okay, I've seen so much about Korean skincare. I am more of a skincare girly than I am a makeup girly, and so I love learning about all of it. What is maybe one Korean skincare, either like hack or routine that you, again, we'll do a takeaway for this kind of maybe you still use in your routine today?
Yeah, so the glass skin trend, everyone knows it now.
Oh my goodness.
I love the glass skin. I mean, the Hydro Grip Center Fresh Spray definitely gives me the dew, but it also starts with skincare, skin prep. So at Peach and Lily too, there's the glass skin serum, and that's where I was really like, sure, glass skin, it could be so broad, but the thought of that messaging in alone of itself, and the like innovation there with a serum and thinking that how that can give you dewy glass skin, I was hooked from day one. So to this day, I still use the glass skin serum from Peach and Lily.
Oh my goodness.
It's definitely my favorite thing that I've learned.
It's definitely a huge trend. I feel like also Rhode has like a brand that's like really, really focusing on that.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would definitely say so. Like, I don't think they claimed it, but like the dewy, what is it, glazed donut sort of thing. So
yes.
yeah, it's really interesting to see how Korean skincare and just the skincare industry in itself has influenced the color and makeup industry too.
All right, so how did you end up transitioning to Milk Makeup?
Yeah, so like I said too, color is my love at the end of the day. Makeup is where I knew I always wanted to go. And when I came across the Milk Makeup opportunity, I was like, interesting. Okay. Milk is a brand that I always had my eye on, and I've always loved what they stood for. And that's something with me, is that I like to passion. Again, it always ties back to passion for me. I want to be able to work for a brand that I truly feel passionate about and am excited to market their brand or their product to and through a community. So when I saw the Milk Makeup position and knowing that it is skincare makeup hybrid, it combined all of the things that I've been building up and learning. And the fact that Milk Makeup just gave me the opportunity to have an impact, build a community, that sort of thing. So when I saw the role open, took me actually a second to apply because I was very nervous. I was getting in my head a little bit. I was like, can I do this? This is Milk Makeup we're talking about here. Such a iconic brand and name. But that's also where I say, you know, your worth and your value. And I know that I set myself up for success to get to a place like this. So I decided to apply, utilized my network too, and was able to land an interview. And now we're here 3 years later.
That is amazing. Okay, I love that you shared that you had imposter syndrome applying to the role that you have now, because I think a lot of us feel that way, especially not with the marketing jobs in general. I think that they're just so much more competitive now. And then within beauty is like another layer of competitiveness. So you kind of mentioned that you had to refine that confidence, but do you have advice for anyone who like sees jobs that they really want to apply to, but they might be feeling discouraged or like a little bit of imposter syndrome, like there's no way that they're gonna pick me or interview me?
Yeah, I think you just got to shoot your shot is what I tell everyone now, because take it from me, from someone who it took me a couple months to actually apply for the Milk Makeup position, and thankfully the role was still up. So it's almost like it was calling my name.
Good for you.
So I think if you don't shoot your shot, then you're just going to end up in the same place that you're at, and you never know where that can take you. So I understand and fully can relate to the imposter syndrome that someone may feel, but look at your experience in your resume and tie it back to the job description that you're reviewing. How does that add up to it? What can you pull from your experience that equates to what they're looking for. Maybe you did something different. Like, for example, I started off in product development and then pivoted over to influencer marketing. I still had to interview at ColourPop. They didn't just give me the role. So what I had to do is I had to put myself in the position of, again, I'm a marketer. How am I going to pitch myself? Sure, I did product development, but how can that translate to influencer marketing? And I mean, simply by the fact of the way that I thought about it was, product, sure, I'm creating something new and disruptive, but you have to tell the story. You have to know how to use the product. You need to be able to do product education and messaging. So the fact that I come with product development experience and now going into an influencer role, I feel really strongly that I know how to speak to product. So look at your experience, whether it be the same thing or different, and figure out how you can combine it together and tell that story.
Love that we're making non-marketing experience the thing that is your competitive edge. I think that's amazing. I think, yeah, not looking at, oh, this is non-marketing, this is not important. It's like, that is the thing that makes you unique and makes you stand out.
Yeah.
Okay, so when it comes to influencer marketing within beauty, all of us as TikTokers, if we're online, we're always seeing influencers interact with beauty products. And I'm curious from your perspective, what's something unexpected that us, like everyday people, might not know about what goes on with influencer marketing within beauty?
That's a really good question. I love that. Well, I think from what people see on social media, you get to see the hard work for sure. An event coming to life, let's say, or a campaign with a creator, or let's say like Rhode has done a lot of really amazing campaigns with like Tate McRae or like Harrison Dickinson, which was like a recent one that I thought was so cool. But the behind the scenes of it all. And I think it is such a fun job, and I'm so passionate about it, and I love being able to see my hard work get put out there. But there's so much analytics and data behind it all. And I think if someone were to ask me, like, where do you see the industry going? 3 years ago, I would have said, or 4 years ago, it's all about micro influencers. We need to just prioritize micro influencers and really make sure that we are setting them up for success, because that's who consumers trust. Now, I think it can be an all tier of people, but what I think is super important is, how are you proving that return? How are you showing the data behind that? So with me in particular, I can be a little bit of a data nerd. I love looking into what we use, Creator IQ, Tribe Dynamics, and looking at my community holistically and understanding how I can use them in multiple touch points and build an authentic and strong community. So there's a lot of data behind it all that I think people don't necessarily think about.
That is so interesting. And also, I'm curious, so with influencer marketing, so let's say I'm a creator and I make a video about the Milk Makeup Hydro Grip Primer or something. And maybe I have a code, maybe I don't, maybe I have a link, maybe I don't, but somebody may watch that video and you can't attribute a sale or a customer or brand loyalty like directly. Like it is really hard with influencer marketing unless you have like a specific like affiliate link, but even then it's hard. So are there some ways that you do? I know you mentioned some tools that you use, but how do you kind of track impact of an influencer when it can't always be direct sales in that moment?
Yeah, that's always the tricky question, because that is something that I may not necessarily always have visibility to. So what I look at when it comes to like a postmortem of what worked and what didn't, I really like to look at, of course, the KPIs of EMV, reach, impressions. All of those things are great, but more so like the potency. So what I mean by potency, it's like EMV is earned media value. That is like monopoly money, if you will, but it shows me a value of how much reach that specific post got. But more in particular and granularly, I look at the potency of that per post, let's say. So per 5 posts, this creator has a potency of X amount. That is something that's really interesting to me, and that I think more marketers should make sure that they're keeping a close eye on, because that lets you know how potent and how much reach you can really get out of that one person. Because at the end of the day, what I'm doing, whether the goal be sales or brand awareness, it all reaches an audience, and it all at one point will, whether it be immediate or 6 months from now, turn into sales. And that is my goal. The more you talk about it, the more volume you have of that specific message. will hopefully bring you to the sales. So I am looking at all of those KPIs, but then even in the creator's content too, what does the comment section look like? That's something that I look at even before selecting a creator. I don't necessarily want to just see like heart emojis all the time. I want to see that they're engaging with their community. Their community is asking them questions. What shade is that? What size shoes do you wear? How does it fit? What's the finish like? What's the wear? Did it actually last? And those things are clear tell signs to me that I'm working with someone who has selling power. But then there's also the beauty of cross-functional relationships with your teams. So maybe I have paid usage behind a post, and we're able to amplify that through sparking. I'm able to then use my cross-functional relationships with my team and get an understanding of, okay, the paid usage is up on that creator's content. How did that perform? What was the click-through rate? What was the return on ad spend? And really just kind of dive into the nit and gritty of it all.
Hearing you speak about all of these different KPIs and metrics that you're tracking, was it intimidating to you coming in and having to learn all this stuff? Because I know as marketing, we think of creative, like influencer, creative campaigns. I always like to say like creative marketing girlies versus analytical marketing girlies. So what was that like for you becoming so savvy with these types of metrics?
Yeah, so I think that's the thing. That's what's so fun about influencer marketing is that you have both sides. You can be creative and then you can be really data driven at the same time. It wasn't intimidating for me. Yes, it was for sure, but I'm a sponge. I want to learn as much as possible. I'm inquisitive. I want to have mentors, people that I can go to ask them questions. So throughout my career, I never shied away from asking a question. No question is a dumb question to me. And I think that if you don't give yourself the opportunity to ask, like, well, what does EMV even stand for? And how are you going to learn? And let's say you're in a role with so many, for me, I'm working with people who are so inspiring and I could learn so much for it, and they have a wealth of knowledge. But also, what are my tools that I have around me? So like, let's say agencies, if I have agency support, should be no problem to like hop on a one-on-one with that person and just ask them questions like, hey, how do you look at campaigns? Or when it comes to this, what success did you see out of that? So I think leading with an open mind and being comfortable with letting yourself be uncomfortable and asking questions, even though you feel like you should know it, allows you to really grow. And that's something that I've always done from day one.
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake sometimes people make is thinking that if I ask a question, they're going to think I'm dumb or they're going to think I'm not smart. But it's absolutely the opposite. And I always like to say, I know someone's really intelligent by the question that they're asking, by them being curious. And yeah, it's also to your advantage to ask the question because then, yeah, you get to learn what that terminology means. And it's not a bad thing to not know something, and it's not a bad thing to be curious.
Yeah, it doesn't matter the level, whether you're an intern or a CEO. I think you should always have an open mind and ask those questions. Don't be afraid. And I always tell my interns too, they are the future leaders in beauty as well. And we all need to make room for each other. And especially being in a very female-driven industry, it's so important to me to be able to help learn and guide with as much knowledge that I've learned. And then I'm hoping too, through my networking, the people that I've been able to learn from would do the same for me, and they have. So I think it's really important to make space for everyone and allow everyone to feel comfortable.
And then how about your own journey with influencing? So you are doing content creation yourself. How has that journey been like, kind of getting to work with people that create content and then also create content yourself?
It's been so fun. I'm like, it's really that's the opportunity for me to be creative and also build a community because I love to mentor. And I think like, sure, I get to connect and work with a lot of influencers who then we follow each other and I become friends with them, and it's a lot of fun. But there's so many girlies out there that also want, their opportunity to get their foot in the door. They want to know what it's like behind the scenes. So I always just say I'm your everyday marketing girly, just living in LA, doing her thing. And I hope to be somewhat of a mentor or a big sister vibe. So for me, it's not about how many followers I can get. It's just about allowing myself to be creative, showing what it's like behind the scenes, because I know, well, when I was in college, TikTok wasn't a thing, but I didn't necessarily have mentors right out the gate. So now that we have things like TikTok and so many other platforms, we might as well use those for good when we can. And one of those ways for good that I can contribute is by letting my page be open for anyone to learn about what I do.
What is the most common question you get asked on your videos when you create content about your job?
Recently, honestly, it's been a lot of like my dream date cute from like Love Island references.
Oh my gosh.
I've been getting a lot of my dream date cute, which I love that. But honestly, one of the main questions that I've been getting is just like, how do I get my foot in the door? Mm-hmm. How do I stand out in an interview? Yeah. Are you hiring is something that I get a lot, which if I could hire everyone and everyone, I would. But yeah, I would say it's how do you stand out? How did you land this position? I think is the biggest question that I get.
Well, I know we talked about this in your start to beauty, kind of started at FIDM and did internship and such, and you kind of shared your advice there. But is there any other advice that you have for women in marketing or just women that really want to work in beauty? Again, because I'm sure you get that question all the time. It does seem like such a fun and exciting place to be. So if you are maybe already post grad or you're already in another industry, or you're not even in marketing at all, what would you kind of say are the first steps or the biggest thing someone can do to start their career in beauty marketing?
I always take it back to shoot your shot. I think that's like been my thing from the beginning, is never be afraid to just put yourself out there. And with that, it comes with networking. There is so much power in building a network and reaching out. And I do get a lot of people that say, I reach out all the time. I'm on LinkedIn sending what feels like messages left, right, and center, and no one is biting. No one is responding back to me. But they eventually get to someone like me who does see the message and does want to connect and have a coffee chat. So I think if you're super persistent and allow yourself, it's valid to feel a little discouraged, 100%. But to also remind yourself of why you want to do this. It all goes back to passion again for me. If you continue to just tell yourself, I'm big into manifestations too. This is meant for me. This will come to me. That like mindset, it all starts with how you talk to yourself, I think, and then how you put that energy back out. So stay consistent. Be persistent with everything that you do. Network, because that is one way that could really help you get your foot in the door, whether you have experience or you're someone who's trying to pivot. I've talked to people who are teachers and they're like, hey, I'm a middle school teacher, but I want to make a career pivot and I want to go into marketing. How do I do that? So it really is about telling that story and going back to how I said earlier, looking at what you've done within your career there and what your goal is and how can you tell the story and combine that together and ask questions, continue to network, build a list of 10 brands that are your dream brands and reach out to everyone from those brands. And hopefully you get a few people to respond back. But if you don't at least shoot your shot, none of that will happen.
That is amazing advice. Thank you, Jazzy. Yeah. And thank you so much for sharing your career journey and walking us through how you got into beauty marketing. It's been so interesting just hearing the behind the scenes of it, hearing your personal story. I'm feeling inspired. So thank you so much for coming on Marketing Girly.
Thank you so much for having me.